have a guest that I've been waiting to hear from. And so we want to make sure that before we get started that you do your part and that you are sharing this video. So right now, before we do anything else, share the video, so that you never know who's in your circle, who may need to hear her story, right? So whether you're listening to it live or you it's a replay, you can always share, and that's how you can show your love and support for the Black Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Sherelle Hobson. As you know, my background is in education and athletics, and so I had the honor to link up with my partner here, Mr. Brian Street.
Yep, I psychology, social work, just really love helping people understand why they do what they do and how they can change the life that they have by changing why they do what they do. Um, yeah, I mean, you guys can definitely look back at previous episodes, check out my social media, learn more about myself, more about Dr. Hobson. But we're here for a specific young lady, and with my psychology background, I'm good on reading energy, and this gonna be a good show because just the electricity that she was giving off pre-show, I'm like, okay, she about to bring it. I don't know what she bringing, but she is about to bring it. I don't know what it is, but I'm excited for it. So, without further ado, we're not
Get
gonna
ready.
waste any more time. Drum
Mm-mm.
roll, please. We bring before you Dr. Kimberly Parrott. How's it going?
It's going, but that lead in, I'm like, oh, okay.
Hey,
That
you
was
got
good.
this.
We don't
Not too
expect
much.
nothing but
Not
the
too much.
best.
Not too
That's
much.
it.
But thank you so much for accepting the invite. It is truly an honor to have you on. And so we are anxious to learn more about you. And we know that behind it, we see all the beautiful pictures and we see all the nice videos that you have on your social media. But we know that there's more to the story than what we see. And so we want to
Yeah.
start from the very beginning
Okay.
of where you're from, and kind of explain and let everybody know like the dynamics of your family. How were you raised, and kind of lead us there.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to share this space with both of you. And I would like to echo what Brother Street said. The energy before the show, I'm just gleaning from you guys already. So I appreciate the shared space and opportunity. I am a very proud native of the great state of Louisiana. I'm going to say it again, the great state. Born and raised, but I've been here since 1996, and people want to convince me that now I'm a Texan. I have to correct them respectfully. I'm not. I am a twin, and both of my parents were educators. And it's ironic because I grew up saying, "I will never be an educator." I was going to be a television news anchor, and obviously that didn't happen. And I'm grateful in a way that it didn't. But I'm from Louisiana, born and raised. I Both my parents, as I said, were educators. I have a twin and I have an older brother. There are three of us. We are all proud HBCU graduates. Um, I'm the first person in my family that did not graduate from Southern University. I graduated from Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm very proud Dillard alum. I was Miss Dillard while I was there. So HBCU Queens, stand up. Then after graduating from Dillard, I moved to Houston and I started teaching in Lamar Consolidated. I was 21 years old. I thought I knew everything, realized I didn't. And after that, it really sparked my journey on my purpose, why I do what I do. After teaching at Lamar Consolidated, I hopped over to Fort Bend ISD. I was a teacher at Willow Ridge High School. Actually, one of my favorite teaching experiences because it's like just a baby HBCU. And then I realized, you know what? I really want to impact more than what I'm doing. And I guess I was like the cool teacher, or that's what I was told. And it was like, okay, students would come to me with their concerns. It's like, you know what? I think I'm going to be a counselor. And so went to Prairie View A&M University, got my master's, and started to become a school counselor. Realized school counseling wasn't exactly what I thought it was, but I still had what I felt was an impact and a connection. And then after that, I wanted to kind of spread that impact. And then I became an administrator. I did my management certification at U of H. And then I became an assistant principal and then an associate principal. And then I became a building principal. And as I continued in these different learning environments, I realized that the foundation of all of this was just positive relationships. whether it's with students, whether it's with parents, whether it's with the cafeteria staff, the custodial staff. That was just the common theme. No matter where I went, no matter who I interacted with, it's just, in my opinion, just common practice. But the sad part, I realized it wasn't as common as I thought, right? I told you I'm from the great state of Louisiana. My mom always told me, treat people right.
Mhm.
Not treat these people a certain kind of way, those people, treat people right, make deposits. And little did I know that that was kind of in a framework of what's called social emotional learning. Um, I just thought it was best practices. As a
Mhm.
teacher, I knew I couldn't teach this student the same way I taught that student. And
Mhm.
even though I taught English, or that was the subject, I would always say it's more important to teach the student instead of the subject. Once
Mhm.
you make that connection with people, that's it. That's all. I can't make a withdrawal if I don't make a deposit. And so I was kind of the little engine that could. I was like, I know I'm going to make this great impact on the world. I had my life planned out. And then one day, something didn't feel right. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, what is that? Me being that person, I know we talked about this doc that's always on the grind. Like, you know what? I'll go to the doctor later. I'll check that out later. And that something didn't feel right, continued not to feel right. So against what I'm thinking is my better judgment, because I already know what's going to go on and it's going to be nothing. It's just going to be a minor little blip. Went to the doctor and I found out that I had an aggressive form of breast cancer. At this point, I'm thinking, um, okay, Lord, so let's have this conversation. I had this plan and you have called me to do this. And I believe in my heart that my purpose is to pour into all these people, to be what all these people need. How is it that I can do this? And now you're telling me I have this dreaded disease. And on top of that, um, it was difficult being an administrator. I was in a situation where the dynamics of the district was changing, the dynamics of my relationship with the district at the time was changing, and I was going through a divorce. I'm sitting here thinking I'm auditioning like for the best lifetime movie there is because all this couldn't happen at one time. But I realized through all of those peaks and valleys, and it was some peaks and it was some valleys, that it continued to strengthen me understanding that it was important to make connections. It was important to understand, even up until that point when I had what I thought was just kind of like the typical little, bluesy black girl life, that everything was kind of perfect and aligned. And then one day, like that, it changed. Didn't know it then, realize it now, that experience caused me to even increase my capacity to make connections, especially in learning environments or in education. Um, and so, after going through all of the things that I went through, um, obviously I'm in remission. My physical health has improved, my mental clarity has improved, and now I am social emotional learning um, senior manager in HISD. I went back and I got my doctorate in organizational leadership with a concentration in conflict management, and my dissertation was focused on social emotional learning. And basically, we hear that a lot, and all it is the centered around competencies that talk about self management, self awareness, social awareness, responsible decision making, and relationship skills. But when we talk about it from a practical standpoint, again, it's just good practices. The foundation of that is just, how are we treating people? What are we pouring into them? How do we take the fact that they may have gone through some situations and they may have had a different type of outlook based on those situations that may cause how they act, that may cause how they relate with each other, that may cause how they respond to certain things. And having that understanding of knowing that their life journey contribute to where they are now and how they communicate, act, receive information, give information, helps us understand how we make those connections. And it's ever evolving, right? It's always the fact that something's happening, something's shaping us as adults. And so I'm just grateful. And I'll be honest, I couldn't see it then, but I see it now. I'm grateful how this evolution of this life journey has just led me to where I am now.
And I'm so glad that you said that. A lot of times we can get so caught up in our own situation that we
Mhm.
lose focus, right? And I was telling um, someone that was a part of my that's a part of my staff. I said, don't allow what you see
Hmm.
to distract you from where you're going, because a lot of times it's easy to get in there and you see like, okay, everything is like like you said, this is not what we planned. And I
No.
don't know if it's because that's how we are raised, like especially as a young black woman. I was also my mother and father, my father was in the military 20 something years, we were very structured, we had a great life. But goals was important.
Hmm.
Goals, hey, if you want to be this, you got to do these certain steps. If you want to do that, you got to follow. So you grow up in this system of, I got to check these boxes, right?
Yes.
So when a box is unchecked, you're like, okay, well, wait, that's not part of the plan that I had.
Right.
When you get those detours, like you talk about those stories, that adds to your character. But then you're able to reach even more people, because now you can relate to the people that have whatever they're going through, right? Whatever their
Right.
journey is, because nobody's coming with a clean slate. And if they are, I want to meet them,
Right.
because we're all coming with something. And so when we have leaders or people of influence that can be relatable and say, hey, these trials, we already know there's going to be trials and tribulations, but you can
Yeah.
still get to where you need to be. You can still hit the goals that you want to go, you want to hit. And sometimes you may have to redirect your focus.
Hmm.
Sometimes maybe you thought you're supposed to be inspiring kids, and then you realize it was somebody else. And I remember being on that same journey that, I was a great teacher. I was
Hmm.
a great coach,
Hmm.
and I got bored with winning.
Right.
People were like, "You're always winning. You're always," but I knew that it was something bigger. How can I make a bigger impact? How can I
Yeah.
make an impact on the environment that our student athletes are in? And so when I started consulting and coaching coaches on how to coach outside of blowing the whistle, it
Right.
was disruptive, right? And so I want you to talk about how, while you're in this storm, or while you're in this, space of like, okay, everything's hit me all at the same time,
Yeah.
how are you able to, I guess, tap back into, okay, I know I have to stay on track. Like, did you ever feel like, okay, maybe I should take a break?
Oh
Or,
yes.
what
Yes.
was that conversation like for you, being that you're coming from a very structured family that's like
Right.
education, hit your goals. And so from there, you're thinking promotion, you're supposed to be at a certain place at a certain time. You should have been
Right.
making a certain amount of money by then. Like,
Right.
what is all this looking like for you while you're in this
So
challenge?
the one thing is to be honest and transparent. This is a safe space, right? And I think what we have to do, especially as Black folks, I'm just going to keep it 100, is the fact that we have to understand that being honest and transparent is so beneficial. So many times we want to put on, this mask of saying, oh no, nothing's wrong. Oh no, everything's okay. No, sis, it's not. No. If I could have lost it, I did. If I had the days where I'm like, I don't see it. And so I don't want even to be disingenuous and say that, oh, I had this great strength when I was going through, and I just knew that I was going to come out, and I just knew that, it was going to impact my leadership. I'm going to be honest. In the midst of it, I want to give up. In the midst of it, I'm like, y'all can have this, all of it. You can have it. I did not have it, right? And you said something, and it sparked my interest when you said, when the box go unchecked, right? And I think it's not that the box is unchecked, because what we realize, and it takes, I think, going through and growing through that season, is the fact that eventually you're going to check that box and a couple of others. We at times limit ourselves so much. Or have you ever had that feeling where it's like, I want this is what I want, this in my mind is the ceiling, and then you realize maybe some seasons down that what you used to pray for, your ceiling is now your floor. And you realize that possibly more often than not, had you not gone through that journey you went through, you would realize, hey, I thought this is what I wanted. I thought this is where my impact was. I thought that I could, do a lot here. And once you get that revelation that, like, no, I feel like I have a greater impact there. And for me, I realized that greater impact was less about me, right? Going through all of that and the authenticity. I'm gonna be honest with you. There are times, especially in some educational settings, that they will see an African American woman and they will say, oh, okay, we can put you at this school. Oh, we can put you in this environment because you can relate. I can't. Not to be shady, but it's almost more insulting if I go in there and I'm trying to be like, okay, I understand. They're like, girl, no, you don't. Right. And so going through everything adds to your testimony, adds to your journey, adds to your authenticity, adds to your impact. And so I would say that in the midst of it, I didn't see, I didn't have that strength all the time. I didn't have that will. I did realize that there was just no way, absolutely no way, the God that I serve and the God that I believe would allow me to experience that and I don't come out with a purpose. And once that, I mean, when I really believed it, that caused me to say, you know what? Okay, now what we doing? Because there's some people waiting to hear me say, I promise you, I'm living, human, breathing evidence you can get through. And every day I realize that's a reason why I'm here. And even sometimes I'm humbled that he thinks so highly of me to trust me with this. Because it's not about Kimberly. I promise you it's not. He could have cherry picked anybody he wanted to. But I can look at someone, I can look at an administrator that's been moved from a campus and don't understand why when they gave everything that they could to the campus and say, I promise you it's going to be okay. I can look at a woman who said, you know what, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer and they told me that, I won't have any more children. I said, I promise you it's going to be okay. I got the same news and I have a child that they said I wouldn't have. I can look at somebody that says, I'm just stuck in this position in education because I feel like I'm confined in this box because I have to go by this standard. And I can say, I promise you, you can find ways to still reach that student or that parent. So I'll be honest, I didn't see it then, but I knew that there had to be a reason bigger than me as to why I was experiencing what I was experiencing.
Absolutely. And so that's what when I wrote my book a couple of years ago, it was Seams of Gold, Discovering Beauty and Brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of speaks to what you're talking about now is when I was able to acknowledge the space that I was really in. And so instead of masking, this broken incident and this thing, and what people gonna think if they knew about that, or if they thought this about me, or they thought I was perfect, they thought I had this, they thought I had that. And so when I put it up there, like, you know what? This makes me who I am, because
Right.
the book is based off of the Japanese method of kintsugi, where they take broken pottery and they fill it with gold.
Yeah.
And I said, and people stand in lines
Talk.
for hours.
And you can
to
see
get
where
something that looks broken.
Come on.
It looks broken, but the value of it. And so I said, that's me. If
Yeah.
I can just be okay with saying, hey, there's going to be trials. Hey, I lost my brother. I moved to Houston. I didn't know nobody. I didn't have no job. I didn't have no plan, but I got here. I went from no job to 5 jobs to, okay, God, no more jobs, but I was willing to do whatever it took.
Right.
Even up into my last situation last year, where I decided to take a $50,000-$60,000 pay cut for my own peace of mind and to follow what I know God has for me.
Right.
We have to get out of the space of always feeling like, oh, well, poor me, let me take a break. Because while you're taking a break, somebody's waiting.
Yeah.
There's a person you should be serving. There's someone that is waiting. Someone is waiting for you to make it so they can.
Right.
And so we can't get caught up in being very selfish of how we feel, because we have a job to do,
Right.
And so I want you to kind of go, being in education. I was in education. Well, I am in education. I've been in 17 years. And I just noticed that in leadership, we talked about how people can tend to put you in these boxes. My box was the athletic coach box, right? Stay a coach. You're really good at coaching.
Yeah.
Don't you like winning? Well, yeah, but I'm ready to do something else. And people can't shift their mind from, well, we used to call you Coach Hobson. Now we got to call you Dr. Hobson. Can we just continue to call you Coach? No. You cannot. But even through that, I fought with my own self of, well, am I demanding too much? If I, well, they did know me before.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took someone who didn't look like us
Mm-hmm.
to say, you earned that. And he told me, he said, if it was me, they would be calling me doctor.
Right.
And so we live in this space where we still have what we are taught, what we know, and also our tradition of being the strong Black woman or
Right.
having to look like you have it all. When you're going through that and you're having to lead teachers and students, and everybody want to do something different, everyone has, they're all pulling from you, and you only have a little bit to give, but God gives you a little, just enough to give.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out how you're going to get it back. We go back
Right.
and we pray, or we do whatever we have to do. How were you able to stay true to the truth, to your truth,
Right.
also work through the system and education when you know there is it's a system, right? And
Yeah.
may not always align with what you feel and what you believe.
Right.
While you're going through all these things, how are you able to make sure you stay true to yourself, but also serve in the capacity that you're called to do?
So that was so rich with so many things that I think we experience as African American women, and I would say African Americans in general, but I do know the specificity when it comes to Black women and some of the things that we experience. And I love the fact that about social emotional leadership, because I am a huge advocate about the emotional wellness of leaders. I have been a leader for over 20 years, and one of the things I always say: who supports the supporter? Right? Because we have to come in and we have to be everything to all these different people. And you hit the nail on the head, Doc, when you said, I have to come in and there may be one place where people want to continue to associate you with the time period of when they knew you and how they knew you and the capacity of them knowing you. And sometimes I'll be honest, it's not an offensive thing, right? It's just the fact that I'm going to capture you in the season that I knew you. I get it all the time. My name, I came in this world as Kimberly Smith. In my first marriage, I was Kimberly Carroll. And then I got a divorce. And then I was Kimberly Smith Carroll. And then I became Kimberly Parrott. And now I'm Dr. Kimberly Parrott. And I can always tell what season someone knows me by how they refer to me. Right. But I think it's important that we are unapologetic. I see so many times that we are over accommodating to make other people comfortable. Right. Like, ooh, I'm not going to correct them from calling me that. If anybody who knows me know that my first name is Kimberly. Anyone who knows me know I do not like to be called Kim. And there are times when all the time I'm going to correct people. And there are times I'm like, ooh, maybe I should just be okay with them calling me that. But no. And it is okay to be unapologetic with your self-awareness. Right. And so the other aspect of that, when we talk about emotional wellness of leaders, and I talk about who supports the supporter, is to be unapologetic about being honest with yourself. I always say in trainings, I go by the great philosopher Ice Cube: check yourself before you wreck yourself. In other words, you have to be honest and say, I don't have it today. I don't have that emotional capacity. I don't have it to give you. I want to give you the best that I can, the best that he's given me to give to you. But today I'm going to have to reevaluate and be unapologetic about preserving some energies. And when I feel that I've grown in that capacity, I'm not great. It's kind of an evolution. But when that happens and I'm put in situations where an education is always changing, we're in the great state of Texas, which also causes some limitations sometimes when it comes down to how we can serve and how we can support and how we can be inclusive and how we can promote cultural awareness and diversity. But I still have a job and an obligation. And so knowing all those different hats, right? And we're talking about how are you professionally, how do you serve, how do you lead? And then you got to come home and be mama. And then you got to be wife, right? And then you got to be sorrow, and then you got to be church member, and then you got to be, daughter. And so the common denominator is who? So the biggest thing is just that self-awareness, understanding that, be unapologetic. And I'm telling you, I will be the big 5-0 next year. Give me a moment. Okay. I'm back. And
I said, let me take a good look. Let me see. Let me see. You don't look like what you've been through. I can tell you that right now.
look, listen. When I tell you I didn't think I was going to live to see 40, and I'm telling you next year I'll be 50, unapologetic about it. Unapologetic about it. And I have a twin, so I can't lie about my age. So I always say that. But if we don't, if we don't immediately come to a place of peace and being unapologetic about the download and the gift and opportunities that he has given us, and how we have a responsibility to protect that at all cost, then we will understand how I think to realign some things. So when we have that outpouring and those people pulling, we can say, you know what, hold on. I want to make sure that, because I didn't ask for this, right? I didn't ask for this journey. I didn't ask for this download. I didn't ask for this zeal to provide this to individuals. He gave it to me. And again, I'm humbled. So I want to protect it. So in protecting it, I know how to draw some lines. And I'm growing in my capacity in doing that. I know I can't please and serve everybody. I know I can't say yes to things that authentically I don't agree with. I know sometimes I have to be intentional with how I respond when I feel marginalized. I know I'm going to have to be unapologetic of saying, you know what? I used to be in that space, but let me invite you to where I am right now because I have more to give you. See, you knew me here. And here, I gave you all I could. I supported you. I provided what I needed. But let me invite you to where I am today. And be okay with knowing that that's okay. You know, sometimes I don't know about you, but sometimes like I don't want to come across as this, and ooh, I don't want them to think I'm that, or ooh, and in different spaces, we could have it with people that look like us. Now, you know, if I go in there and I correct people by my name, they're gonna think I'm this, or they're gonna think I'm that. And we can do it when we're in different environments. Okay, let me make sure my facial expressions are a certain way and I'm not coming across as the angry Black girl. Let me make sure that I don't interrupt, and let me do. That's a lot of energy. And we doing all that to make sure everybody else is okay, and we the ones that still okay.
And you're absolutely right. We wear so many roles, and on top of what you just named, being in a very male dominant space that I was in, which was athletics. Now you can't be smart, cute, and do your job. So yeah, so it's like, you are constantly having this battle, and when you get to the place of like, why am I battling with my truth? If this is who I am, whoever's in my circle is going to accept whatever season I'm in. A lot of times people, like you said, I always tell people all the time that, you know, though people that love you will love you no matter what you're doing.
Facts.
If Kimberly said, hey, Sherelle, you know what? I think I'm no longer gonna do this whole social emotional leadership thing. I think I'm gonna sell hot dogs.
They'll be out there with the buns.
My job, okay, well, what kind of hot dogs you trying to sell?
Right.
Because I know the greatness that's in you. But we do tend to allow people to put us in those boxes, and we rob ourselves from our own destiny because we're battling with this where I'm at and who I used to be. And I love that you said, hey, that person loved you, but let me introduce you to the new one.
Yeah, let me invite you to
Let me
this.
reintroduce you to her. This
Yeah.
is who she is. And so when you can get to that space, that has to be a beautiful space where
It's self work every day though. And then you said something about
every day.
your crew and your people, right?
Mhm.
They're gonna love you too enough to say, okay, sis, I'm gonna support you with these hot dogs, but let's have some concrete plans about what they look
Yeah. Yeah. With the
like.
hot dogs, right.
Now, you know that people gonna want their money every month when it comes down to bills.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna ask you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a thing that you have to do. And if you don't take care of that obligation,
Right.
there's some consequences. So
Right.
it's also those individuals in your life that can be honest and real with you. Because when I talked about checking yourself before you wreck yourself, sometimes when we do have this download and we feel like, you know what, I feel like I'm making headway, or I feel like I'm making a contribution. And then people give us that feedback, man, you're great. Yes, that's great. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
if not checked, and if we
Mm-hmm.
don't have that honest crew, because
Mm-hmm.
we have to understand it's not about us. We have
Mm-hmm.
to protect this that was given to us. But sometimes we're gonna take it like, oh, okay, they call me. Oh, okay. And you have to make sure you still have those individuals around you that say, hey, let me holler at you. So
Mm-hmm.
we might want to check those energies and what are we doing with it? I have
Right.
a very dear friend that's absolutely amazing. We just had a conversation today and a conversation yesterday about sitting on our gifts because we do what I just said all the time. Oh, I don't want it to come across, and oh, I don't want it to do that. But you have to have your real ones too to make sure that you're protecting your space, make
Mm-hmm.
protecting your leadership, make sure you're protecting what how you serve and give, and that you're honest and true to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's so important because it kind of contributes to also that pouring back in, because when you're giving it out you have to have that time where it's like, okay, I protected too much for me constantly to be doing this, because then you're going to be empty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brian?
I'm I'm just like I'm listening to just the thorough display of what you're giving, and I keep thinking about self awareness, which you just mentioned, or which Dr. Hobson mentioned, but then also self analyzing, like
Yeah.
always analyzing what you have gone through, what you're going through, and where you want to go to.
Uh-huh.
And so many people don't use all of those different areas in a constructive way to determine the path of their life. It's
Right.
either, okay, I went through X, Y, and Z. That's why I can't become this. Or I'm
Right.
dealing with this specific dire situation right now. That's why I can't become this. Instead of, I dealt with that and I made it through it. That's why I can make it through what I'm going through right now to become who or whatever I want to become.
Right.
And like you mentioned, it's constant. Like it's work. Like always, it's work. It's work. It's work. And so many
Yeah.
people want it to be easy. They
It's
want
not.
to just yeah. And the thing is, I think about how Michael Jordan said he think he made the game too easy. Like he made it look too easy. Like so
Right.
many people, they see it easy when they see someone else's result and
Right.
they
Right.
don't know what they went through. And it's like you don't know how good it feels to win until you lose a few times.
Talk.
You don't know how good the blessing is going to feel until you've been hurting and suffering and wanting.
Talk.
So I look at what you've gone through and the fact of the resilience that you were able to build within yourself. It's a walking embodiment of you can go through something, but you got to go through
Through
it.
it.
You
You
got
got
to
to
go through
grow
it.
through it. Right.
Exactly.
But I'm gonna keep it.
Exactly.
I want to always be honest, because there are
Hmm.
times when oh, you're so strong, and I tell this story especially when I was going through cancer. I live in Houston, so it was hot. So I was like walking around bald. People's like, "Oh my God, it's just such a testament of your strength." No, it's hot, and I got a bad attitude because I'm sick and I'm angry, right? And but being honest about that. And that's why I think we miss such a robust opportunity for people to truly capture about the eventually, right? You had a great point, Brian. When you see this, oh, she going through, look, girl, they say she going through a divorce, her husband left her. Oh, she not going, she not in the school district no more. They say she lost everything. And they see this, right? Then they see, oh, okay, she got a doctorate. Oh, she's healed from cancer. Oh, she's remarried. Oh, she's this, she's that. And then that in between. And you hear, oh my God, you're so strong, you're so this. And we hear a lot when people, well, I have too much trauma, and trauma is real. And so that's why I want to talk about the gap. I always want to say, let's address the gap, right? I live by saying, I want to be what I needed. I want to be what I need, right? That drives me and that motivates me. But it does not mean that there aren't days where I'm like, I don't have today. Yesterday was a day for me, right? I am that person. I will pour in everybody's cup. I was empty yesterday. Empty. I don't have it. I don't have it. And so until we are honest, and that's where I think I just stress that transparency. And Doc, we talked about this offline. Now you can't invite everybody in your space though. And everybody can't handle, we hear that tagline, you can't handle the truth. Everybody can't handle the blessing of your transparency, right? So be selective with it. But until we get honest with each other, yes, I am fiercely strong, but I have my days. Yes, you can get through it, but you got to grow through it. And there's some days you're like, I can't do this. And it's those days, to be honest, to know it's not your strength you're depending on anyway. Right. And if you need to take that moment, take it. If you need to say, today I can't be that for everybody. Today I can't pour in that cup. Today I can't have that resilience and strength. Because I promise you that honesty is gonna only impact your story and your ability to connect with others even more. Because if I see you, like I applaud you, Doc, for being an athlete. I am not. I can play Uno. That's it. Only thing I ever ran was my mouth. That's it. But in saying that, if I see you jumping hurdles, or if I see you bouncing a basketball, I'm like, there ain't no way in the world I could do that. But if I see you start off like it just start off with you lifting your legs, and you kind of have to go through and you can get to that point. And that's my point. I think sometimes that we cannot miss the opportunity of being honest with people. Like, I know that thing hurt, but I promise you can take that hurt and you can pour it into this and you can get through it. And when you do that, trauma is real, triggers are real. But when you do that, then you realize, you know what? I'm stronger than what I thought. And it kind of explains the why behind the what. Because I think we all look at like, well, why did I go through that? Why did that job loss happen? I was amazing. I don't understand. Why did that divorce happen? I did everything I could. Why did that illness touch my body? I don't get it. I was healthy. Why did I lose every dime I had? I don't understand. And so that honesty of saying, okay, I'm gonna go through this, and then realize I am stronger than I thought. And now you have that transparency. That's why. Oh, had I not gone through that, then I wouldn't realize what this is. Do you know how often God spins the block on us? I had a situation in leadership that I went through 10 years ago. And I felt I was flat-footed right in how I responded 10 years ago because I was wronged. They didn't do me right. This was how I'm going to tell them. I'm going to let them know. 10 years later, similar situation, God allowed me to witness it and see someone else going through it. And it's like, you can still be right, but I promise you can respond differently. So I do wish that people would just kind of understand and be honest when sharing their story, not cherry pick just the good parts, because then that will help people kind of work through their own trauma about kind of, attacking some things that they think they can't.
Yeah, that
I
relatability.
want to, I want to, I want to shoot this back out to y'all though.
Yeah, definitely.
So, in your respective areas, how do you see a gap between individuals that are authentic in the work and saying, I want to help others, even if it's in a space of education, cognitive behavior, athletes, and holding on to that honesty about the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys, right? And then the offerings that they give students or other coaches or leaders. You get what I'm saying? They can say, "Oh, I believe that this is what we should do, and I know that this is it." But then you see how they're, giving what they claim to give as, help and services, and you're like, "There's a disconnect." Do y'all see that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, in the social work space, like hugely, you see so many people that are just stuck on the textbook. Like, this is how it's done. This is how it works. But you have a human being in front of you. So
Mm-hmm.
how you apply it to that individual is going to be different than how you applied it and how it resulted with the previous individual.
Right.
And one thing that I've seen so much of is people don't want to cause too much friction. or don't want to get too uncomfortable. So I'm not going to really tell them what they need to hear. I'm going to tell them just enough to where they don't get too worked up and I don't have to be too uncomfortable to where, okay, we can get past this session and it
Yeah.
was a little bit of improvement. But sometimes, like, you got to just let loose, like, unbutton your shirt and, like, look, pardon my French, this shit ain't going to be easy.
Nah.
This ain't going to be easy. Like, but you have to understand that if you take this step, that step, and then this step, we're gonna get closer and closer to the result. And we have to be willing to do that and take people, help people, just pull them out of their comfort. Point
Yeah.
blank, period. And that's one of the things that I'm grateful, and I give all glory to the highest. I have that ability to allow people to open up to me and tell me stuff that they've never told anybody before. Their
Yeah.
closest friends, their family, and it's only after, as a professional, you have some sort of skill set to make your client become vulnerable that you can really tap into the root of what's causing their problem and really help them grow.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love helping people in that specific respect because you can just see the light. Like, oh my goodness, like I wish I had someone to approach this with
Talk.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like nobody has ever allowed me to be
Yeah.
who I am. And I remember, and I'll give this story, and then we can shift. But it was the same program that I met Dr. Hobson through. There was a young lady, and she was doing well in business, but she like she hit like a hurdle, and she
Hmm.
couldn't get past a certain milestone as far as her income.
Okay.
And it was our very first leadership event that we were at, and she was sitting on the other side of the room, and I could just sense something in her energy, like she is she's being a shell of herself. She's
Right. Right.
not being who she truly can be. So we had like some downtime later on in the day, and I told her, like, you got something going on that you ain't told nobody about. And you ain't winning the way you're supposed to be winning because of that. And she was like, oh my goodness, how did you know? And slowly but surely, I just sat there in private, a nice little area, and got her to start to open up little by little. I said, look, we need to have a session, a one-on-one, when we go back home, and we're going to be real.
Hmm.
And we had a deep, real session. And like, she was telling me stuff that she was enduring, from a specific individual that was in her life that was pretty much telling her that she can't be out loud who she's meant to be. She
Hmm.
has to be more reserved. She has to. And after we had our session, we didn't talk for about 2-3 weeks. I didn't hear from her. And then when she finally hit me back, Coach B, I'm so glad we had our session. My business went from 4 to 5 figures this
Yeah.
month. Like, I don't feel that weight on my shoulder no more. Like, some people just need to know it's okay to feel the way you feel, but it's not okay to stay there.
Right.
So
Right.
let's figure out what we need to do, whatever little tweak we need to make to allow you to break loose and really live in who you are. But most people, like, it could be something taboo that they're afraid to tell people. But when they can bring it to you and you're not judgmental, well, I guess I'm not crazy. There's not something wrong with me. So I
Right.
can be who I truly am meant to be. And the life starts to transform. And that's why I absolutely love this space. And I don't see enough people willing to go that deep, get people uncomfortable to help break them out to where it's supposed to be.
Well, I think it's, we say uncomfortable, but like, for example, I'm gonna say social work. That's not my skill set. But if social work is this and everything that is associated with social work is this, there are times, individuals are the one that cherry pick who should receive it, and they shouldn't happen. Social emotional learning is this, right? I'm not going to say social emotional learning is this, and oh, well, if I'm dealing with you, it's just this, or if I'm dealing with you, it's just this. But how is it in your space? I have two beautiful African American boys, right? I'm going to keep it a buck. SEL looks different for Nicholas and Noah than it would for students that are African American or that haven't gone through trauma like they've gone through. And I think when you said the reason why that individual had to realize she didn't change, right? And then what you made very clear is the fact that what I am offering you as assistance is available to you
Mm-hmm.
in your full authenticity, right? And then going back to that word I said, transparency. We got to keep it 100. And then we have the owners of it. If we know, okay, I have to work within this space. And I know, like you said, everybody may think social work is just this and they put it in a box. So if this is the box that I have to work in, I'm going to make sure that in this space, I still make sure that I communicate to you that this is available to you. This is what you have. Instead of just saying, this is it. People not going to see themselves. People not going to see that they have access to that. And then to be honest, when it was like, let's talk about some of the challenges. Okay, they're going to exist, but you still have this available to you. So I'm glad you shared that. I'm glad that she got that awareness that, she could be herself.
Yeah, and that's just what I've seen in my field when it comes to social work, or really any helping professional or helping profession.
Yeah.
Um, there's not enough transparency and getting people to be transparent and really opening up people's vulnerabilities, and that person just continues to cycle through
Yeah.
watered down therapy or watered down counseling and think that my life is going to be this way forever.
Right. That's why we got to keep up the fight, brother.
That's it, all
That's
day,
it.
every day.
That's all.
Absolutely. And something just to kind of add to that. And, I had a lot of those challenges of that gap as well when coaches talked about winning. And
Right.
so when I challenge them, what is really winning when your athletes are, once they leave from you, they can't get a job, they're not going to college. Are you really winning?
Mhm.
And so when I started to really teach coaches on what winning is about, so I created my company Win with Why. And I help to really shape them, to really get them to understand that your why may not be your athlete's why.
Right. Right.
So until you can align that, you're not truly winning. I don't
Right.
care about the trophies, the medals, the news write up that you had. If that child is not growing, if that child is not transitioning to real world,
Mhm.
you have lost.
Right.
You have lost. And so we have that constant battle. And I think that's what you talked about earlier about just being aware of who you are and where you're at. That even when people are like, this is working for me,
Mhm.
you can still continue to be like, okay, well, you'll be there because they'll eventually circle around and come back.
Are they
And
gonna
like,
split?
what was that? What was that thing you was talking about that one
Right.
time? Like, okay, now I gotta charge you. See, last time it was gonna be free.
Look,
Now
look,
it's
the first
$2.99. It's $2.99 a month. It was free.
I tried
But
to bless
it
you.
is what it is, right? And we have to just really learn, like you said, just to be true to who we are. And like you said, who supports the supporter? You
Mhm.
know, coaches are being there for their athletes, and they're not even dealing with their own issue as coaches.
Right.
They're
Right.
supposed to be the person that has it all together. And so you just have to be okay with saying this is the space that I'm in.
I
So I
think once
want
we get to that core piece, then we will know I can. It's not about just coaching them in this sport. It's not just about social work in this capacity. It's about that individual that you're
the
trying to impact
individual,
them. It starts with you.
because that's your job. And I tell people all the time, there's in education, there's never a convenient time. No student ever comes up there. There's no right answer, no right. They're not gonna come. They're not gonna say, "Are you busy? Can I come?" They're just gonna come.
Yes, sir.
And you have to that you're in a capacity to serve, and you have to be okay with that. So how do you move on from um, when you're in this leadership position, and now it's time for you to expand beyond that, right? Whatever that looks like for you. How do you, how do you get with those who have been following you in this season, and now you may be transitioning into another season? How do you get people that are used to you being, well, I really liked when you was coaching us on this, because like you said, education is always evolving. Like
Yeah.
there's new things that come out, there's new things that you're going to experience. And so as you continue to add to your gift, how do you bring the people with you to also buy into, hey, follow me, this will work?
So
This is
I've
outside of what you're used to, because everybody's famous for that. I've been in, every
right,
time I'm in a leadership role, well, we've always, I'm
right,
like,
right.
one more person talk about what you've always done.
Which you gonna get what you always got. I think one of the things is I've been challenged this year not to say buy-in, but to have share commitment,
Mm,
right? Because buy-in is the fact I have an option of buying out or not buying at all.
mm,
So to have shared commitment, and it goes down again with the person.
Mhm.
I have been, my running joke, my tagline line when I open up a professional development is that I've been everything in the school except for the cook or the custodian. And I'm sure there's still time.
Mhm.
But when I was a teacher, I would advocate in this realm. As a counselor, I advocated in this realm. As an assistant or associate principal, I was in this realm. And as a principal, now as a district leader in this realm. And what I'm saying is, but Kimberly still was the vehicle that was giving the message. And I
Mhm.
think what's important is it goes back to, I'm gonna preach this till I'm blue in the face, authenticity and transparency in relationships. If you have that three foundational approach, because it's not, people know you, right? So if coach was rocking with me when she was telling me or teaching me how to be a better coach, and now as doc she's telling me, in this capacity, I know her heart in this season, I know her genuine spirit, I
Mhm.
know that she was communicating with me about this. And what you're going to find out is the fact that the same message that she was preaching here, you're going to see that thematic stress, that
Mhm.
thematic message. As a
Mhm.
teacher, I'm preaching building relationships.
Mhm.
As Miss Smith, straight out of Dillard University, I talked about the importance of preaching of having relationships with students. As
Mhm.
Dr. Parrott, almost 30 years, I'm gonna still talk about
Mhm.
it. So that's the thing. When you own that and you are honest and you are true and you are transparent and you are consistent, when
Mhm.
you are consistent,
Consistent.
when you are consistent,
Consistent.
let me say it again for the people in the back. When you are consistent,
Consistent. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Any day that ends with Y, you're gonna get the same Kimberly Parrott. Anyone, Tuesday, next Thursday, Sunday after next.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's the messenger,
Yes.
right? The
Yes.
message may change
Right.
in a way, but the
Right.
foundation of it's going to remain the same. And I
The
think,
core stays the same. Your
right,
love.
right. And so even for me right now, like I'm a district leader, but I have my own educational consultancy
Mhm.
um, business where I get to partner with other leaders and to expand their capacity in whatever realm they're in.
Yeah.
And that's been very rewarding, whether it's in education or not. My doctorate is in organizational leadership with conflict management resolution. I'm a professional mediator. So some of the consultancy opportunities aren't just limited to education. But
Yeah.
what I have found is the fact that good practices are good practices,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I can go and talk to a group of physicians,
Mhm.
and I don't have an MD, and
Mhm.
I can talk about how to have relationship skills. I can go
Yep.
talk to do training with a group of construction workers,
Mhm.
and I can talk about what it looks like about self care and self management. I
Mhm.
can talk to a group of fishermen,
Mhm.
and the fact that relationship skills and the authenticity of what I'm saying and the transparency and the relatability will allow me to transcend in those areas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you said, no matter where the message changed, but the messenger does not. And in the same way I was, and when I was coaching people, how do you always win in? And this, I have relationships
Right.
with my athletes. When they weren't at practice, I knew their parents would call me asking me where their child, because I knew where their child hung out. I knew the type of friends that they had. And so I knew my athletes. So whatever I needed from them, they were like, yeah, okay, we got it. They now what they said on the way to the workout and everything else, but they got it done. And
Right.
from there, we were able to win.
Yeah.
When I got into leadership positions, it was the same thing.
Hmm.
Relationships, and it's crazy that we keep talking about that. Like, why is it so hard for people to have relationships? Because they don't have their own relationship with themselves. So it's
Come
hard
on.
to have a relationship with you when I'm still trying to figure out who the hell I am, right? And
I'm
so
gonna
we have
tell you to keep it real, and then I don't.
to right. And so we've been in those seasons. We used to hear that fake it till you make it, and we end
Right.
up faking for still faking. Some people in 40,
Yeah.
I'm 41, but I know people
Oh,
41,
thank
they
you.
still faking. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you following behind somebody that I mean, you look at social media now, people are trying to search for who they are and what they want to be and what they should say. And nope, everybody has lost touch of just being who they're supposed to be.
And I said that earlier. Now everybody can't handle your transparency, nor should they.
Right.
Everybody can't handle your story, nor should they.
Right.
And I do
You don't
believe
have to
there's a
explain it
benefit.
either.
Right. I do believe there's a benefit in just having that authenticity, but be so protective of your energies and
Your
what you
energy.
have,
Hmm.
and know who's worthy of that, and who's worthy of saying, you know what, I've been through that and I understand, and you can make it.
Yeah.
But until we understand it is okay, I
Not to be
love what you said about the Japanese art and the value increasing when you can see exactly where the fracture happened.
okay.
Um, and I'm sitting here, and I'll be honest, my husband will tell me. So this beautiful reminder is of my vacation last year,
Mm,
and I fell off a bike at 47, 8, whatever what I was last year,
mm,
and I often like, oh, I don't like the way it looks. Oh no, let me cover it up. And that's the same thing. I have a chemo scar here. I have gone through multiple surgeries. And there are times when it was like, well, let me make sure that covers up, and how does it look? But it's a reminder of the fact that, you know what, guess what? That used to hurt, but it doesn't anymore.
mm,
We talk about that mask. We talk about, keeping it real, but I don't want them to know too much. We talk about this kind of presentation that we have, and we
mhm.
rob ourselves again of that opportunity to help other people and even to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? We cover up those scars and we cover up what happened, and we forget
Mhm.
that thing used to hurt.
Mhm.
That situation used to be difficult.
Mhm.
I used to respond like this as a leader. I used
Mhm.
to respond like this as a coach.
Mhm.
As a social worker, I used to stay in that box and give the bare minimum.
Mhm.
And then sometimes we kind of have to have our own reminders that we went through those things, and we can better ourselves and better others if we're just honest.
Absolutely. And show your scars, like you said, it's like
That's mine.
people would say like, look, I have some too. I have one on my eye. My every time my
Yeah.
dad sees me, he's like, I told you not to pierce that eye when you was back in college. I'm like, look, I at the time I thought it was cute.
It was
And
a
that's
good decision.
all.
It was cute. I had it right here. It was cute.
It was right here. And so, but we have to be okay with that, but like you said, we have to be very careful of who we allow in our space,
Right,
how much
right.
energy we put into trying to explain to people, oh, well, this is why I'm doing it now. You don't have to do that. This is what
Yeah,
I'm doing now,
yeah.
and this is what I'm doing now. And so, taken away from that. Now, how do you, in the space you're in now right now, what's next? Like, do we have events? Do we have like what is next for you?
Well, I am loving the opportunity, even this, my first lady at my church, the Fort Bend Church, shout out. Woo, woo, woo.
Oh,
Um,
that's my trash Sora. I
yes,
used to know
it
her.
changed my life.
Yes.
Okay, let me tell my quick testimony on that. So after I left education, I had a period when I was sick, and then I stepped away from education for, I think, 2 years. I was always a member of the church, and then I ended up working at the church. And then that was a season where it's like, God, I'm here. I know I'm here for a purpose. Didn't realize that that's where I met my husband. And so there you go. But one thing that she always was just a dear mentor, friend, Sarah, first lady, amazing.
Love
I'm
her
very
to
proud of
pieces.
Corbin Church.
Yes, love her to
One
pieces.
of the things that she always reminds me, God will, blessings will chase you down. And if you just, you just continue to make those investments, and you just continue to plant on good soil. So right now I have the opportunity, for example, shared spaces like this, continuing to partner with leaders. I have several conferences that I'm presenting in. I just presented in the state conference of Black educators. I have another local conference coming up. I have my educational consultancy firm, Positive Connections, because I want to help leaders to make connections that are positive and beneficial. So I partner with leaders and opportunities through professional development, helping them shape their campus culture, just even their own leadership. I've worked with several school districts recently on the emotional wellness of leaders. I've built this robust SEL leadership focus, to be honest, because there's some leaders right now that are saying, you know what, truth is, I'm tired. I don't have the answers, and they're coming to me for those answers. So I partner with leaders in that, to create those sacred spaces and those safe conversations about their emotional wellness. And so I'm blessed in the respect that blessings are chasing me down. I have opportunities like this where I can have a safe space to just continue to advocate for the importance of social emotional leadership. I continue to authentically share as a leader that you have to be so protective of your energy and what you pour out and what you give. I just recently was featured on a commercial with my beloved alma mater, which is Abilene Christian University, and just kind of again advocating for leadership in that capacity. So a lot is on the horizon. So I'm looking forward to this season of my life.
I love it. I'm looking forward to it too.
Well,
So
thanks, Sarah. Appreciate you.
I am, and I love to see people win. I love to see my sisters win. I love to see our men win. That's one thing about me. I tell people all the time. I just want to win. I want everybody around me to win, and whatever that looks like, let's do it. You know, whatever I can contribute to, let's do it.
You
And
may not see the win this season, but overall, it's a win.
it's a win.
It's a win.
Whenever you're staying true to your core, it's always a win.
Big facts. Just
It's
keep playing the
always
game. Just keep
it's
playing.
always a win. So,
Yeah.
how do we find you? What do you have? Do you have any books? Anything that we need? Social media? How do people find you to get more consulting or more advice? Where can they find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn as Kimberly D. Parrott, EDD. I'm on Instagram, Katie Parrott 36, and I am on Facebook, Kimberly D. Parrott. And in those social media realms, especially on LinkedIn, I do have links to publications. I just published an article about the importance of African American female mentorship. I'm working on a publication right now. And that's where I also update my conference opportunities. So I have a conference coming this summer where I'm going to continue to talk about the emotional wellness of leaders. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Talk about that self-awareness. I also talk about team building. So yeah, LinkedIn is definitely where I upload a lot of my either my publications or my conference appearances and things like that.
Well, for those who are listening that are in that space of stuck, I'm in a stuck season. What would you say to that person? That person, the other person that is in the season of I'm motivated, I'm down for whatever. What would you say to those two people?
So the stuck person is own your stuck, own it, because nothing's worth than pushing through when you just going to sit there and totally ignore your emotional wellness. Own it, but after you own it, what we doing with it, right? And understand that right now is not forever. Just keep pushing. It may seem hard. It may seem like you're swimming through tar, but keep swimming because eventually you're going to see that there's movement and your contribution is important. And that person that feel, you know what, I want to do it. I'm here to motivate. I want to make sure that I help others. Be unapologetic about protecting your energy and your peace. I say this, and I know we're at the wrap up season. For example, I always remind people of this that at any given moment, every morning, I have the same beverage, right? I go to my coffee area, I get my cup, I pour my coffee, 3 creams, 3 Splendors, right? I like the way it tastes. Every day I have a favorite beverage, depending on the time of the day what that beverage is. So you caught what I threw, right? So say for example,
Yeah.
I get that cup and I pour my favorite beverage in it. And one day I did it, nothing changed. But when I went to taste it, it was different. I realized that the mug was dirty. And that's what I want to tell those individuals that feel like I got this to share. It's so good. You can have this great download. You can have this great testimony. You can have this great body of work. You can have everything that you feel is good to share with others. But I promise you, if your mug is dirty, I promise you, if your mental space is not clear, I promise you, if your cognitive kind of headspace is clouded, or you sitting there and you have all that, whatever you give into somebody, I promise you, it's not going to taste the same. So be unapologetic about cleaning your glass because you want people to make sure what they drink is good.
Get you a track where you at.
That part.
Man, that's real. Well, I don't know about the guests. I don't know about Dr. Hobson, but I kind of want to keep talking, but well, I kind of want to keep listening. What I actually meant, uh, but man, like this is definitely has been a great show. I mean, obviously, you two are a lot closer as far as geographically speaking, but I see the necessity of some sort of collaboration
Oh,
in
we
a
got
one
work
degree
to
or
do.
another.
Let's get it.
Yeah, we got. I mean, and just social. looking at these shootings that we're going through,
Fact.
we need social emotional learning
Real
everywhere,
social
Absolutely.
emotional learning.
everywhere.
And we can't just say show. You know, a lot of times that we say, "Oh well, SEL," and then I have the duplicitous, like kind of the dual role here when it comes
Mhm.
down to. I'm in the state of Texas, no shade, but it's like SEL in a safe space because some people just hear this. Oh, it's
Hmm.
inclusivity. Oh, it's diversity. Oh, it's this woke language, and then you have over here where it's like, oh, give it to the kids, give it to the kids because we want them to get a hug, we want them to have restorative circles, especially in light of the pandemic, and I get some validity when it comes down to it, but it's so much more. And what the missed opportunity, you have to give it to the adults to give to the students, right?
Yep,
Right?
Come
exactly.
on.
They gotta know what it
Keep
is.
teaching the kids and not teaching the people that's teaching the kids.
Okay. But I'm sitting here, how many times now we laugh about it and it
Hmm.
becomes a viral video where you're talking
Hmm.
about school shootings, but let's talk about the number of fights that we're also seeing with students.
Before that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the number
Hmm.
of turnovers that we're having.
Hmm.
Talk about retention rates of just
Hmm.
educators. Let's talk about us constantly have to reevaluating the certification standards because we don't have enough people in the classroom.
Let's
Let's
talk about your burnt out teachers and leaders
talk to me.
that's
Talk
missing.
to
They're
me.
missing the mark because they're tired.
Talk. The truth is, I'm tired. Huh? And my options are few. If we don't start talking about the emotional wellness, I am a student advocate. Now until I see him face to face, I promise you I'm one.
Hmm.
But because I'm a student advocate, I got to be an adult advocate as well. And we
Yeah.
have such a gaping missed opportunity to be there to create safe spaces for individuals that are in learning environments to say, let's talk about your emotional wellness. Let's talk about, because if you are an educator that's in those environments with school shootings, that's in those environments with the number of fights that are happening, that's in those environments where I got to cover two classes because we don't have enough teachers, even cement cracks.
Hmm.
Facts.
And if the water get in it, then it get uneven, and then it starts
You better
splitting.
talk to me today.
Man,
So
y'all
I'm
spit.
going to continue to be an advocate when it comes down when we talk about social emotional leadership, when we talk about social emotional learning, when we're talking about just best practices. But again, as much as I have I mean, I promise you, I know. I don't think it. I don't believe it. My husband has to hear me on the other side of conversations. I'll leave a campus. I said, baby, I look, I'm telling you, I did some good work. And he
Hmm.
was like, okay, what happened? I was just there. And he's like, okay, no, Kimberly, no, you're not getting it. I literally was just there.
Hmm.
And in the middle of a principal telling me, Doc, I have this and this and this and this. I said, wait, how's your emotional wellness? And they just like,
Mm.
what did you say to me?
They said they ain't got time to think about that either.
It was like, you just even created a space to even ask me that question. And I know that's what he called me to do. I
Mhm.
know I had to feel that I didn't have that at times in my previous seasons of leadership to know that's what I need to be today. But that's another podcast.
Right. Or a program.
Yeah.
But well, we're so again, we appreciate you and
Thank you for this shared space. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
you're
it.
absolutely amazing. And this is we're family now. So there's going to be more from this, and we don't want to do relationship. We're big on relationship. It doesn't just end right now when the show is over. We want this relationship to continue, and so we again just thank you for in the midst of all that you have going on, being a leader, being a mom, being a wife, being fine, being so all those is hard, and so you still
It's
took
hard
time
work.
to maybe not the fine part for you, but everything else take work.
Look, listen, I'm at that gym every day, fighting for my life.
Well,
Hey, that's how you
yeah.
keep the visual of 50 away.
Look, I'm out here, just trying to land one.
I
That's
already
it.
know. I already keep swinging your head.
That's it.
You're
One of them gonna land one day.
gonna land. And
Yes.
so, wow, you're absolutely amazing. And just keep being you because being you is more than enough. And you are.
It's magnetizing.
It is. It's
Y'all
very
keep
convincing.
fighting a good fight and creating safe spaces for people to share what they need
Oh
to
yeah.
share. It's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and put you in the backstage, and then we're
Okay.
going to close out very quickly, and
All
then
right.
we'll let you go on to your many roles and hats that you have.
Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well,
And another one.
and another one. Absolutely amazing. It's just good to see people that's been in education for so long, because I know that when I have these conversations, everybody I talk to in education, how's everything going? Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. They want to do something else. And so when you hear someone that has been in it for years and is still very passionate about it, I mean, it's very contagious, and that's when you know that you're working your true purpose in life. When it's
Hmm.
like, being tired is not an option, and if you are tired, it's cool. Let me take a little rest, but let me get back into it. And so we need more people like that in education, because we have lives to change, and when we get tired, we're going to miss the mark, and then the kids are going to miss the mark, and then that's who we also end up hurting, is our future. And so we just have to make sure that we do put ourselves first. When she talked about self-awareness a lot in relationships, and so one of the two of the things that we are very big on, is relationships, and serving in that capacity to
Yeah.
change. And so,
Yeah. I mean, and just speaking to getting tired, like when you love the work that you do, yes, you should get tired. But a lot of people throw this term around of burnout. Well, I say there's burnout where you're like, forget this, I'm over it, I quit. And then there's burnout, as in like an athlete, I left it all on the field. I'm
mhm,
gonna go and get some rest, and I'm coming to do it again tomorrow.
mhm.
Like I call that acute burnout. You want to have that feeling. You want to, like she said, she go home today. I killed it. I
Mhm.
did that today. Like you want to
We
have
don't give
that
ourselves
feeling.
enough credit. I know I don't, but
Yeah,
we definitely don't do that.
that's so true.
Mhm,
And society doesn't.
mhm,
Society makes it to where society wants us to devalue the work that we do,
mhm.
when ultimately the work that we do is what allows people to go out and fully function in
Yeah.
society.
Yep.
So, just a great guest, great information, great dialogue, and I definitely look forward to working with her more in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But thank y'all. Make sure you check us out. Look at our website, wearehsba.com, and find out what we're doing more in our Black community, what we're doing with our athletes, with our students, with our leaders. Find out how you can contribute, whether it's money, whether it's your gifts, your talents, your time. Check us out on wearehsba.com and find out what we're doing. Also, make sure you share this video. Share the video on your social platform, your social media platform, because you never know who's in your circle that may need to hear it. So, again, we love you. Until next time, again, check us out, and thank you for supporting us.